Alright, I'm here to compare these two label makers. Why? Because every other single video is like, well, the label maker's for making labels. Do you need to make labels? Yes, duh. I don't want that. I want to know what the difference is between the machines. So let me tell you what the difference is between the machines, because I bought these two. I'm only comparing these two because I could only be bothered to purchase these two. Because I got this one on sale for $10 off. It's the PTH110, Brother PTH220. And it was on sale from 40 to 30, and I was like, whatever. And I got it, and it was way bigger than I expected it to be, because I do a lot of traveling, and so I wanted it to fit in my bag and not add a bunch of weight to my suitcase. And so I thought, maybe this one's too big. So I bought another one that I'd seen and liked. What is the model on this one? It should say somewhere. The box says. See, I bought these. PTH110. PTH110. So that's what this one is. It's pretty nifty. It's got the phone style. Because I thought this looks a lot smaller than this. And you know, at first glance they kind of do, but actually not that much of a difference. So let's look at the size of these things when we compare them apples to apples. If we put this thing sideways, it's about the same width. It's actually a little longer. It's not as tall, so it is a bit smaller, but then girth-wise, so this one's a slant. So this one is slimmer. But at the end of the day, it's not that much slimmer. And then in terms of weight, so I have 6 AAA batteries in each of these. So you're just going to have to deal with that. But I'm going to weigh them on this magical scale. And the smaller one comes in at 500 grams even with batteries. You're just going to have to believe that there's a coffee scale right there, because I ain't moving the camera. And this big boy, 557 grams. 557 grams. So the difference between these two is 57 grams, which is not a lot out there for those of you folks at home who are watching. And so I decided to play with them and see what the differences were. There's a couple big differences I want to draw your attention to. Mainly, one specific difference, if you're doing one specific thing, this thing has a cable button. I didn't know what that was for. The cable button is for labeling cables, because when you're doing that, it's generally a strip, and you want this side and this side to say the same thing. You're gonna wrap it around the end of the cable. If this is the cable, you're gonna wrap the label around like that, and you want it to say the same thing on both sides. This has a button just for that, and it has 2 settings. One of the settings is same thing on both sides. One of the settings is a different thing on both sides if you want. So if you're in a setting where you're just labeling a ton of cables and that's it, you should probably just get this one. But that's not the setting I'm in. I do label the occasional cable. However, that's not exclusively what I do. The other biggest huge difference between these two is this guy has a whole bunch of templates. It's got patterns and text. So templates, probably not going to see this super well. Text and patterns, there's the text one. And then it's just got a whole bunch of different ways that the label could look. Things you couldn't create just by typing into a normal label maker. So some of these look like they're designed for office, or for cute looking stuff, or for a phone number and a name. This one just doesn't have that, period. So if you're looking for cute formats, this one's your go-to guy. The other big difference is the keyboards. So obviously, these keyboards are very different in size. But there's some nuances here that you'd be interested to find out. First of all, even though this one is bigger, this one's a little more familiar, because if you use a smartphone, which you probably do, this is closer to smartphone keyboard sized. That's what this is. But this one, it's a full keyboard, so it's too small. I have big hands, but still, you're not going to be typing on this like normal. But what it has going for it is like your QWERTY keyboard on your laptop. If you're watching on a laptop, all the symbols are the same. So if you look at that, your question mark and your exclamation point and your colon and your dash and your @ symbol, they're all right there, a shift click away. On this guy, not so much. There are buttons, and you can get all the same symbols, but you have to go into a submenu to get to them. So, do not like. The other thing that was tough, at first I thought I liked this one better, because I actually kind of like the small size of the keyboard better. But then I switched to preferring this one, because this one, the buttons are kind of stiff. You can't really you can hear a click. They have like a satisfying click, but they're kind of stiff. You kind of see how my thumb has got to really, like, you can't just kind of, you got to press them. This thing, the buttons are really easy to press. You can kind of just, like, there's not a lot of pressure going on there. There's not a lot of work. It's pretty easy. So the buttons on this thing are way easier to press. And this thing also has a cable setting, but every single time you have to type in both sides. So you can't just put like HDMI 1 and have it automatically put it on both sides. You have to type HDMI 1 and then hit OK and then type HDMI 1 again. So it's a little more inconvenient. But it's not so bad. The font choice appears to be the same. The label choice appears to be the same. They both have frame settings, which is for putting things around the labels like dots or stars or patterns. I don't really care about that stuff, but it's there. Another interesting thing about the screens, they're different sizes, but they're the same size. What does that mean? It means that the size, like the number of text that you see on this screen, even though it's smaller physically, is the same amount of text you see here. So you'll do the same amount of like going, like this one doesn't give you more letters on a page than this one does. So depending on who you are, if you want something smaller that still gives you as many characters to look at, this is your guy. If, say, vision is difficult for you, or you just don't care, or you want it to be easier to see, this is your guy. Just kind of, for me, it really doesn't matter. I want all the characters in there. I actually sort of prefer the screen here, but I far prefer the typing on this one. So that's kind of what's going on. And the software is similar but not identical, which I found pretty strange. Some of the buttons that are dedicated on this one really kind of set it apart a bit. Like there's a file button, which kind of makes, let's see here, yeah, that thing doesn't have a file button, which makes like saving and loading your templates pretty easy. It's not very complicated, but at least there's a button so you don't have to go to a menu. There's a menu button, and there's just a little more going on here, and it's a little easier to get to. Something this one does have going for it that the other one doesn't have is a dedicated preview button. This one you can get to the preview button too by pushing Shift Print. So it's both places, but it jumps out at you a little more here. Oh, that's interesting. This one just has a clear button and a backspace, whereas this one has backspace and clear in one key. It's kind of neither here nor there. This one's sort of like if you're labeling cables, this is probably the printer for you. If that's what you're doing, do it here because it's got a button for you. Anything else? I like the typing experience better here. I like that all the special characters are exposed instead of having to go into a menu for them. I just like how the keys feel. And the truth is, like holding them in your hands, so here's me holding this one. Like it's pretty balanced. Let's see, we'll kind of show you where the center of gravity is a little bit without. So it's pretty balanced. So you put your hands around it. I've had decently large hands, but like it's still pretty easy to handle. This one, also pretty easy to handle, although it's interesting. When I'm typing, you'll notice much of the weight is in the front. So this one's actually a little bit more top heavy, but they put the batteries in the base, so it still feels good. It doesn't feel top heavy. But like if you're like, oh, I want it to fit in my hands so I can take it around, like this one fits in your hands too. This one would probably fit in your pocket better because of its shape. So if you're wandering around a warehouse labeling cables, get this one. I'm going to keep this one because I like the keyboard better because it's not that much heavier and because all the symbols are exposed. There's other symbols that it has that aren't here, but like most of the stuff I'm going to want is right there and I'm not going to have to dig through a menu to get to it. So that's why I'm going to keep this one. It was also on sale. That's fun. But like that one, that's not really the reason. I'll give you a quick peek inside these guys. So this one, it's kind of interesting. The cover actually stays attached. Batteries are right there, and the tape cassette goes in there. And it's the same tape cassette for both of these guys. They come with the exact same sample tape cassette. So this guy, let's see here. It's got another little button press, and you push here, and you bring it down. So back there, that's where the tape cassette is, that's where the batteries are. They're both nice printers. You won't come away bummed with either one of them. But all the reviews I saw were like, let's review the printer. Do you need to print labels? And it's like, that's not, no, yeah, I'm here because I need to print labels, obviously. none of them were comparing the models to each other, so that's what I've done because no one else is doing it. Anyways, weight's about the same. They both fit in my hands pretty good. This one would go in your pocket better. This one has a dedicated cable button. This one has a better keyboard and symbols exposed and a few more buttons that make your life nicer. So I'd say if you're me, which is unlikely because there's only one me, I've heard, you should get the PTH110. But if you're me who wanders around a warehouse labeling cables, which might be more likely because I don't do that, get this one because it's got a dedicated button that says cable on it. Thank you for joining us for my super spontaneous random reviews. Hope you liked it. If you didn't, I hope you laughed. It was hilarious. It was funny. Okay, bye.